Sunday live, hours before the futures market opens at about 6, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've got just about 9.5 hours left until the weekly candle closes. And for XRP, for crypto, it is not a pleasant looking weekly candle at all. We'll take a deeper look at that. We'll take a look at what happened in Iran with Pakistan, with the ceasefire negotiations failing. We'll take a look at the implications that has on this market, a grand scale implication. We'll get into the heat liquidation maps. We'll get into see where the long short ratios are for the day. Also, I found this compelling to read this to everybody, how they put out here that North Korea continues to steal billions in crypto and what that means in the platform like Bybit that's allowing this to happen. We'll go over the US Iran talks that failed in Pakistan that led, or in part, it's continuation in the pattern, but Bitcoin and XRP falls. We'll go into the liquidation and the heat maps, see where the liquidations are. We'll see what the compounding leverage traders are doing here, long versus short, see where the ratios stand. We'll make the best out of this as crypto continues to be a dying breed when it comes to retail. Retail is literally losing interest at an alarming pace, which means that we're getting closer and closer to a bear market low. So we'll hopefully continue to see this transcend in a very efficient way. And we'll just do the best we can with who decides to come here every single day. And then we'll welcome everybody back when we get into a bull market. It'll be too late for the ones who come back then. But for everybody who's here now, at least you'll have the salvation of understanding that real wealth transfers are made in the bear markets. We'll go through another cat and mouse game when we get back into a bull market, and every single one of you that are here religiously on these lives, these updates, these shorts that come in the bear market, if you've been with us in past cycles, you will 100% understand what that means by the time we get back into a bull market. It never changes. Retail gives up at the worst possible times and they come back at the worst possible time. So I would prefer for 300, 400, or 500 people to be here in the lives in the bear market, but I know that's an impossibility. You know, we struggle to keep the viewers we have, and to try to gain new viewers is almost impossible. But when we get into the bull market, we're going to see a profound switch and flip, but it's going to be too late. So find yourself worthy, consider yourselves lucky that you have the wherewithal and the dedication to continue to watch crypto day in and day out, despite being in a, now we're heading into, what is it, about the 10th month of a bear market. So we're getting into that transformational time when the vibe is the lowest and retail literally doesn't want to take the time. These are the times. I would greatly appreciate for the few of you that are here to hit that like button. It really does help. We haven't even been hitting 100 likes in the lives lately, which is not good. It keeps me even worse in the algorithm, so we'll make do with what we have. And then in the bull market, we won't do the I told you so, but we're gonna know who to trust on the left side and the right side of us, because we're not gonna want to listen to anybody who didn't put in the work in the bear market, because they just don't understand. They're not gonna know the vibe. They're not going to know the transitional period, and they're not going to understand what's coming next. So we're going to continue to have this laser focus. We'll continue to try to reach the ones who need to be reached, and we'll try to continue to reach our lending hand and our guiding arms out for the ones who want to be taken into the community and want to know, the truth when it comes to these patterns, have a better understanding, and try to stay in the and walk with us, not against us kind of mindset. So with that being said, good morning. 10:39 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Sunday, April 12th, 2026. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. It's a pretty lonely walk these days in the community, with a few of you, my brothers and sisters that stand with me arm in arm. But it's definitely becoming a less and less together with retail. So it's we're gonna have to continue to push this. Like I said, I appreciate everybody who hits the like button. It's a definite plus when you do hit that like button. It's very hard to push this out. I think my short this morning only has like 300 views so far, which is 10 out of 10. So even on a Sunday morning, I'm not able to get through the algorithm. And as you can see here, we're struggling to get viewers in the live, but that's pretty typical now in the bear market and to be shadow banned. So, I don't take for granted anybody. I think each of our viewers are equal to their weight in 10 times what a hype view is going to get you. But at the same time, we need to do a better job of not only welcoming each other, but trying to guide our welcoming arms to others that are probably struggling in this time. So, and I don't blame anybody for not coming into the bear markets. I don't, but I do understand when you're in a risk asset, the best time to be involved is actually in the bear market. It completely contradicts what most people would think. They think if they don't see any green candles and it's all red, what's the point? Well, I almost would rather say if you see a bunch of green candles, what's the point? Because you've already missed that opportune moment. Right now in the symmetrical triangle, which are continuation patterns and the trend's been down. So we have to see if we could even break out to the top side. As of right now, it's been a bona fide failure every single time. Yesterday, we came up just to liquidate some more of retail. Came up initially into that 135.5 area. Ironically, right after that, after crypto made the move yesterday, we got the talks that things had broken down in Pakistan, and it immediately reversed the market. The moment that crypto had that volatile spike up across the board, Bitcoin got up near, what was it yesterday? Well over 73,500 for a brief moment. And then Trump came out as on routine, 73,800. Then Trump came out and said, we're going to bomb the hell basically out of the ships that are lining up. And it allowed, not the market didn't get brought down by the news, but it was in that point on the symmetrical triangle where we were hitting that short-term resistance. So then it started reversing down. We're down below the equilibrium right now at $1.33. So there's definitely a lot to think about here this morning. I might as well say hello to everybody since there's not a lot to get to. This will make it a lot easier. That's the one good thing about the bear market. I can get more personal with most of the audience. So two Ravens, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army. 2+ years with the XRB 589 Moon Badge. Bright Future Freedom and Mrs. Stott, thanks for being in Tom's Army along with Mr. Stott for over 6 months with the XRB Predictor. Cannabis Podcast, thanks for being a very trusted mod in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So Badge, along with the Ricci Farms, Crazy Paul, and Jacoby, also in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So Badge. Jason Blackburn and Totally Awesome, thanks for being in Tom's Army 3+ months with the XRB Meteor. Lord of Drink, first year in crypto, came in at the top. So I'm excited now to see the bottom bear. I look at it as a learning experience. Absolutely. Excellent, excellent comment. It 100% is a learning experience. And you gain knowledge by seeing what it looks like at the top of a market in retrospect to what it's going to look like in the bear market as we've been watching. And one word of advice I can give you is in a bull market, even when the price drops, that's an opportunity to pick it up. And then it'll continue higher on the next move up, the next leg. In a bear market, it's a good time to wait and see until we finally put in the bottoming phase. You're not going to want to buy every time it pushes up and back down. The push up is to grab extra liquidity to drive the price down, and then we can go on from there. So that's a big point of contention that we need to understand the differential between a bull and bear market. You're going to learn a hell of a lot more in the bear market than the bull market. The bull market, you're going to see your portfolio explode, but in the bear market, you learn real trading fundamentals. You learn real fundamentals because your gut's always going to be tugging at you in a bear market. Hey, we're lower than we were before. This is the time to buy. A lot of people are just sick of hearing the same thing over and over. They're drained. They're physically done. They're mentally drained. That's where you can build yourself into a better, not only trader, but a better mindset for when we get back to the bull market. So you don't let the fear of FOMO and the FUD get you trapped into areas you don't want to. And at the same token, you learn about the fear of FOMO and FUD in the bear market at an nth degree because you can't afford to make mistakes. If you make mistakes in the bear market, that's where you get, let's just say, drained of your funds that you can use, which is why most people would tell you to buy no matter what. Hold on for dear life because that's what the institutions need. That's the honest to God truth. And I'm not going to spin you in the wrong direction. I'm going to spin you in the right directive. Silver Days, welcome in. Joseph Euler, thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So Badge. Also, gifting a sub this morning. How internally generous is that? Very, very generous. And Marco gets the gifted sub for his first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. Juan, welcome in, my friend, and thanks for being in Town Zone for over 2 years with the XP589 Moon badge. Morning, Tom. I stepped away for a week from the Groundhog Day market. Thanks for your thoughts. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, a lot of people are stepping away. You're not alone in that, my brother. But I'll be here every single day. So when you guys, when you walk back, I'll still be here. As I always say, I need you as much as you see the need for me each and every day. And that's the best I can put it because I always have a need for you, but it's only going to go as far as you need a need for me. So I'll always be here with the open invitation for all and try to speak the line of truth. Low welcome in. Claude, just keep buying, buying, buying. What do? We buy, buy, buy. Well, I mean, that's up to you, but I don't just buy, buy, buy until we get to the right time. Get it, got it, good. So XRP, looking at this rejection area that we hit in the symmetrical triangle, we came back up to the 200-day one more time yesterday, and we had that brief spike up into that $1.37.5 area, got firmly rejected, fell outside of the symmetrical triangle in the immediate short term, and we're working on the symmetrical triangle we're in right now. The low support right now is $1.30.6. If we fall below this, which it probably won't be in one swift move because we're going to be rather oversold in the 4-hourly, $1.30 could be a nice short trade if the market holds because we still have the CME that'll come back online tonight, and that's up at 136.60. So we're definitely well below that right now, but that could just be a little breakaway gap area if, in fact, this continues to the downside. So a lot of stuff to pay attention to this morning. But again, it's going to take mental stability and it's going to take a real defined focus to keep looking at this when it's red. You know, every time it goes up, a lot of people are like, well, why should I even watch? It keeps coming down smaller than it was. So small downside on the 4-hourly, correct. Says low. The weekly could make the turn at any time. Victoria, welcome and happy Sunday as we give thanks to our Lord and Savior and blessings to all. Victoria, good morning. Victor, good morning and happy Sunday. Satjeet Tiwana Music says, hey, Tom from Toronto, thanks for what you do. Appreciate it. No problem. I appreciate you being here on this Sunday morning. Jason Blackburn, thanks for 3+ months with the XP Meteor. My problem is I got in November, December of 24, so I got in when price were in the middle. And this was before I found you guys, so now I'm trapped until it comes back up to get out in one piece. I don't disagree with that. Yeah, you were catching it in December. November was right before the breakout or in the midst of the breakout at the end of November. And then basically you had, depending on which token you had, July was your get out of jail free card for XRP because it would have been above where no matter where you bought it. But it was like a 2-week window. By the time it hit that $3.70, it was already over. So I completely understand. And I'm glad you found us now because there's going to be a lot of people that find us when it's too late in the next bull market and history is going to repeat itself. But most of those people leave, ironically, when we're in the bear market. So it's an ironic thing. A lot of people are very sad and devastated about buying in at the wrong times, but they won't see it through like you have into the next low bear market, into the next bull. So consider this a great learning experience. Don't get too down on yourself because we all have to experience it one way or another. You can listen to me until I'm blue in the face, but until you see the repercussions and or the rewards of trading a certain cycle, it's really going to be hard to stay on tune. So that's why we need to walk together. And I guarantee you, I promise you, and I give you my word that if you continue to stay tuned, we're going to walk together in this bear market, and then we're going to run in the bull market into new eras. It's happened 2 other cycles. I can't wait for this 3rd cycle to start taking shape. And then we're going to have to be just as on the ball when we get to the top of the bull market. I'm not going to hesitate. We'll build up our audience to a crazy amount. We'll have a crazy amount of people here in the lives. And then one day I'm going to come out and say, guys, it's time to sell. This is the time to get out of the bull market. I'm going to get a lot of pissing and moaning because that's what happens. People don't want to accept it. I'm going to lose 80% of my audience like I have again in this bear market. And then we're going to rinse and repeat, and everybody's going to come back when it's too late in the bull market. So this time I've been trying my damnedest to get more people to stay. It's worked to about a 50% clip. We used to get about 40 to 45 people on average in the bear market. Now we get like 70, 80, 100. It just depends on the day. Today we have 64 so far. So we'll see how that works out. Jacoby, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year at the I Told You So Bad's and a $4.99 super chat. Says you won't work for free today. I appreciate that support, my friend. If you are watching, make sure to hit that like button. Only about half have hit the like button so far. We got to do a better job at that so that we can try to reach our fellow friends that are trying their hardest to stay out of the way of this horrible market. Poppy Lou, thanks for being in Tom's Army 6+ months with the XP Predictor. Said I learned a lot about charting with you, Tom, and now I have 2 funded accounts trading gold. Got my first payout last week. Excellent. Excellent. Congratulations on that, Poppy Lou. I appreciate that that compliment, but also the fact that you're growing as a trader. That's awesome to hear. So if you're just tuning in for XRP, we got a couple ways we can look at this. We know we've got the imbalance zone over the top. We've come back down into this is, it's actually a little bit higher, the equilibrium. It's about $1.33-ish. So we're basically in the equilibrium. We're below it right now. But if we want to look at this in the symmetrical triangle sense, these are continuation patterns. And I'll show you a couple things, and I can show you it better on XLM because of the way it's set up. But with XLM, we set up a symmetrical triangle inside of a bear flag. So, if this breaks down, we're below this setup right now, and it really does show what could be coming for the rest of the market. Maybe it's out ahead. We've got a liquidity area we could sweep and try to hold still here. But we have a symmetrical triangle, and symmetrical triangle is just a continuation pattern. Notice how we were on the down track, and it created what looks like a bear flag, but it did it in a symmetrical sense. So this is just, we try to get rid of all the built-up aggression. We drop down, and now for XLM, for example, because it is showing a perfectly set symmetrical triangle within a bear flag. It's not a pennant flag, a bearish pennant, but I suppose you could call it that, but it is a symmetrical triangle. It targets 10.7 cents. So if you're wondering why that 10.7 is there, or right around 11 cents, that's because of where we fell out right now. And that's where it would target on a breakdown. So it's not to drive people away, because people come in and they immediately leave when they see the bearish talk. But that's what a symmetrical triangle is. We're going to have to prove ourselves out of this to the top side. XRP still within it in the shorter term. There's a larger symmetrical triangle as well, but these are continuation patterns. And unfortunately for the market, or fortunately, these are on bear flags right now. We're still below the descending triangle, as you can see above, and that targets 86.6 cents. And unless we got above that $1.56 level and started making a move up, and ultimately in real time, it's come to about... In real time, it's about $1.67. We need to get over and flip this pattern. Otherwise, it's going to be the continuation down. And quite frankly, I'm rooting for the continuation down, because every time the market makes that move up, more and more retail ends up trapped. More and more retail just doesn't understand what's going on. And if you want to understand the narrative in the news, let's get to the news real quick. Let's get to the news. So the U.S.-Iran talks fail in Pakistan as Bitcoin and XRP fall. Talks aimed at easing U.S.-Iran tension ended without a breakthrough, keeping markets on edge. And you need to know about this because it goes into our risk assets. So to not understand this is to not understand what's going on in the trading world. So geopolitical tensions in the Middle East have once again taken center stage in global markets as a fragile ceasefire between the United States and Iran hangs in the balance. The conflict, which escalated on February 27th, following joint U.S.-Israel strikes under Operation Epic Fury that targeted Iranian military and nuclear infrastructure and killed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has since disrupted global energy flows and heightened macroeconomic uncertainties. In recent days, attention shifted toward diplomacy, with high-level negotiations in Pakistan seen as a potential turning point for the war that has already rattled financial markets and risk assets worldwide. Based on what I'm seeing, I would expect oil to maybe open up 5 to 7% higher than it is now. So expect that pump to get a little more pricey this week. So talks between U.S. and Iranian officials began on April 11th in Islamabad, marking the first direct high-level engagement between the two sides in decades. The negotiations followed weeks of escalation, including strikes on Iranian targets, retaliatory attacks across the region, and disruptions to shipping routes near the Strait of Hormuz, a critical artery for global oil supply. Pakistan played a central mediating role, hosting both delegations and attempting to bridge differences after earlier ceasefire efforts temporarily reduced hostilities. Ahead of the talks, expectations were cautiously optimistic. Iran reportedly pushed for sanctions reliefs across 2 frozen assets and security guarantees, while the U.S. insisted on strict limitations around Iran's nuclear ambitions and control of key shipping lanes. The Islamabad negotiations were widely viewed as a critical step toward a broader settlement that could stabilize both the region and global markets. Efforts to reach a diplomatic breakthrough intensified on April 12th as delegations from Washington and Tehran held extended negotiations in Islamabad, Pakistan, aimed at ending the ongoing conflict. Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs indicated early signs of engagement, warned that progress would depend on concessions from the United States, which isn't going to happen. In a statement posted by spokesperson for Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ismail Baqai, Iranian official, described the negotiations as intensive. So Baqai, however you say it, said the outcome of the talks would hinge on the seriousness and good faith of the opposing side, while urging Washington to avoid excessive demands and unlawful requests and to respect Iran's legitimate rights and interests. Hours later, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance confirmed that no agreement had been reached after roughly 21 hours of talks. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement. Breaking J.D. Vance says U.S.-Iran talks in Pakistan ended without a deal after 21 hours, adding the outcome is worse for Iran as Washington holds firm on terms. So this is what they said.
Well, good morning, everybody. And let me say a couple of notes of appreciation. First of all, to the Prime Minister of Pakistan and to Field Marshal Munir, who were both incredible hosts. And whatever shortcomings in the negotiation, it wasn't because of the Pakistanis, who did an amazing job and really tried to help us and the Iranians bridge the gap and get to a deal. We have been at it now for 21 hours, and we've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement, and I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could, and they have chosen not to accept our terms.
They're not very good terms either for Iran, so I don't expect them to. So if you look at Iran's comments on the ceasefire, it's, it's what you would expect. And it's important. Like, if you're watching, this is very important. You want to stay in tune with the national news and the narrative. So this was the biggest part of it after I got out of church, what I seen. So Iran more live. Trump says U.S. to blockade ships crossing Strait of Hormuz. And why is this important? We're in risk assets, folks. Super important. I'll hit play here, but first I want to thank Poppy Lou's and Tom's already 6+ months with the XP Predictor, and I seen him gifting 5 subs to pay it forward. Thank you so much, Poppy Lou. It means a lot to me, the support I've received this morning and every day from this beautifully committed audience. If you are watching, hit that like button. We got about 46 likes this morning. Try to push it. Well, I don't know if we'll be able to get to 100. Not enough people viewing, but I do appreciate everybody's hit that like button. So 5 gifted subs went to Train, King Edward, Super Half On, First X Receipt, Zach 2. Congratulations on all 5 of you getting gifted subs for your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. I greatly appreciate that. Garrus, welcome in and thanks for being in town on your second month with the Dust House Crypto News. Where is the best place to keep up with this type of business news? Here. Simple. Keep watching. Every single day I'll bring you the forefront news that I deem necessary, and I'll shuffle all of the narratives so that you don't have to deal with it. Amen. Good morning, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So Bad's morning, my friend. So here's what Trump had to say. So we'll let this little advertisement go by, and then we'll listen to what they have to say. I guess it's not going to show us what he has to say, just showing the commodities and stuff. Well, I thought maybe it would show us what Trump was saying, but it did not. So I can read through this. So Trump says U.S. to blockade ships crossing Strait of Hormuz. Trump says the U.S. Navy would immediately start blockading the Strait of Hormuz. And this came out a few minutes, like about an hour ago or so, half hour ago. And would also interdict every vessel in international waters that had paid a toll to Iran. Iran's parliamentary speaker, Mohammed Bakr Ghalibaf, has blamed the U.S. for the failure of the ceasefire negotiations in Pakistan, saying the U.S. officials failed to gain the trust of Iranian delegations. Iran knows that controlling the Strait of Hormuz is still their main leverage. The higher the tensions, the more price surge, and this affects the global economy. The main point of contention now is that Iran refuses to reopen the Strait of Hormuz without a full cessation of the war, and it seems this is going to be their stand for now. Before the war, the Strait of Hormuz had not been an issue. The main issue were the nuclear question, ballistic missiles, and regional interferences in U.S. interests. Now the epicenter has shifted to the Strait as Iranians discovered that it is a weapon. The Iranians knew this was a ceasefire, not the end of the war. The fact that the outcome of talks in Pakistan seems to be negative is not seen as something surprising. No one was expecting things to work the first time around, but most of the people want to go back to their normal life, and the situation is just adding more pressure. There are economic hardships as many businesses were destroyed. If this situation continues, there will be more pressure. There's pressure on the state as it's not able to sell its oil, and internal pressure, which could all have been impacted or have an impact. So this is what Trump told Fox News. I could take out Iran in 1 day. Defending his planned blockade, the U.S. president says that Iran cannot control which ships go through the Strait of Hormuz, declaring that either every ship should have safe passage or none will. We're not going to let Iran take money or make money on selling oil to people that they like. Trump told Fox News it's going to be an all or nothing, and that's the way it is. The blockade will be similar to what the U.S. imposed on Venezuela, though on a larger scale, Trump said, suggesting that more tankers would come to the U.S. to buy oil as a result. Trump also reiterated his threat to destroy Iran's power plants and other civilian energy infrastructures. I could take out Iran in 1 day. I could have their entire energy, everything, every one of their plants, their electric generating plants, which is a big deal, he said. So, it's a piss and cat mouse game back and forth. Who do you trust? I wouldn't trust the USA. They're the biggest liars in the world. So, I wouldn't trust anything the USA says. But I suppose if you're a Republican, you take verbatim what Trump is saying. And if you're a Democrat, you wait for one of your people on your blue side to say what needs to be said. I prefer to call them all scumbags because that's what they are, working for the central banks. But anyhow, Oman's Foreign Minister Badr has called for an extension of fragile ceasefires between the U.S. and Iran. In a post on X, Bussati said that following a conversation with Vice President Vance before the conflict, both he and Trump had a genuine and strong preference to avoid conflict. Success may require everyone to make painful concessions, but this is nothing compared to the pain of failure in war. Oman was mediating talks between U.S. and Iran before negotiations broke down following the U.S.-Israel attack on Iran in late February. Hezbollah says it has launched a series of attacks in northern Israel and along the border, citing what is described as repeated violations of a ceasefire. In multiple statements issued earlier today, the group cited a targeted Israeli military infrastructure in Carmel at 1500 local time, 1200 GMT, with that, or with what is described as a rocket barrage. It also reported rocket attacks on several other northern Israeli locations, including Kiryat Shmona, Margliat, Aviam, and Iran. Hezbollah said its fighters also targeted Israeli troop positioned in vehicles in a number of border areas of Lebanon, including Debil, Rashaf, Beit, Leif, and El Bayada, and Qaza. I think that further attacks were reported on Shlomi, Iran, and northern Israel, while the group said it also struck Israeli forces in the eastern outskirts of Ben Jabil, earlier in the afternoon. So, with the immediate blockade of the Strait of Hormuz by the U.S., the situation looks very dim for the ceasefire, which was shaky at best and fragile. The question now is whether the U.S. was serious about diplomacy in the first place, or whether this was just, as the U.S. president said, a chance for a reset. So the two posts by the U.S. president are very bombastic, very long, very detailed, and seem to be filled with a great deal of frustration. There are no doubt alarm bells ringing here in the GCC for countries that were hoping the ceasefire would extend beyond those 2 weeks and become a consistent long-term negotiated peace that could perhaps lead to different relationships forming in the region, but certainly to the end of the violence we see. The retaliatory attacks that have been levied by Iran on the GCC have taken a heavy toll on this region's economy, on various civilian targets, on energy infrastructure, and on the general sense of these areas being a safe haven. There is no doubt, in terms of rhetoric, a serious escalation. The idea of the U.S. forcing its way through the Strait of Hormuz, effectively engaging in a battle with the Iranian Navy, means gloves are off. That is going to be a serious concern for these countries that are on the coast of these waters where this battle may be happening. And we've talked about the fact 50,000 troops made their way through the Middle East to get to Iran. I mean, you got to take it for what it is. We're not just throwing 50,000 troops out there for no reason. Now, we talked about this liquidity area on Bitcoin, and it was a big area around 70,000, 70,300, and it was a building area of concern. And now you can see we're heading right down towards that liquidity at just over 70,300 and such. If we look at the 3-day on Bitcoin, we've got liquidity down here. We've got some liquidity built up near 74, but we're coming through the heart of this liquidity zone. So we'll see how that plays out. Going into the crypto liquidations, because I believe if we keep ourselves on tune and track and on the ball, we can stay ahead of all of this until we get into the bottom of this bear market. Bitcoin, if we look at Bitcoin, and we'll look at the last 24 hours, the long to short ratio is tightening even more. 2 days ago on Friday, we had 90% going short, 10% going long. Now out of 114 million, we've got 50.9 million of that going long, 63.69% or million going long. Short. So the ratio is definitely breaking down a little bit. For XRP, it's at 3.19 million going long, only 667,000 going short. So no surprise the price is going down right now. A lot more leverage to liquidate on the push down than the push up. And XRP, that's a pretty big ratio. They're at a $3.86 million leverage right now to long or short side. Over 3.19 million is going long. So the majority is going long right now. It's about for every $6 million, if you want to put it that way. But 5 out of every $6 or so, 4 out of 6 is going long right now. That to me that's a problem for XRP in itself, and that's why we're going down to those lower liquidity levels. It feels like to me, if we go into XRP and the heat liquidation map, gives us a little more of a guiding figure. If you are watching, there's 80 people, 52 likes. Make sure that like button help us continue to push this through the algorithm. I do see strong areas of content if we can hold $1.20, and at worst, if we can stay through this $1.28 area or so. We've got some resistance or liquidity up here near $1.38. And $1.39 is the biggest area in the last 3 days. If we take this out into the month, we see still around that $1.40 could have been tapped. It came up to $1.37.5 yesterday. But if we continue to drive the price down, we do have a nice little area here around that $1.28 down to $1.25-ish. where we could pick up some liquidity. But the biggest area of clustered liquidity would be right around that. I mean, there is a big spot right here around $1.40. Right there, $1.40, 126.03 million on the heat liquidation map. But if you do come down here, you've got nice areas of clusters here as well. It's not as big as the $1.40. $1.40 is going to be the biggest area of content in the monthly. Now, if we go into like the 3-day, the 72-hour, you can see there's two areas of concern. Still over here around $1.29, $1.28, $1.30. But we've got, again, the biggest area is pushing up towards this smaller zone, $1.38 all the way up to $1.40. In the 24-hour sense, over the last 24 hours, it's pretty split. Just as much liquidity down here near $1.30 as there is up here at $1.38. So you really got to start looking at it in the more grand moments in the monthly, just so you can see a detailed buildup. And I would not be surprised to come and take this $1.40. But we need to, we definitely need to pay attention. Let's see. Do I have the White House app? No, I don't really pay attention to the app itself. I go through the unbiased news. If I have the White House app, then I like to look at like Al Jazeera and the Iranian or the Middle Eastern news over what our government puts out, to be honest. Mike, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for 1 month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens as our timelines converge. Excellent. 1970 Legend, welcome in and thanks for being a very trusted mod. And also in Tom's Army for over 1 year at the I Told You So Bad. Our Buckeyes in the house this morning. Welcome in, my friend. Mark Caston, thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 2 years with the XP 589 Moon Match. Creamy Goodness, welcome in. Amen. Thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year as well. Creamy Goodness says, hello, Tom. It's time to build cash and get ready for the private credit below, or credit blow up to take us down that last leg. Then it's all gravy from there. For a series of time, it sure will be. And the funny thing is they came out with a report about the Clarity Act yesterday and said that there's only about a 30% chance for it to pass in 2026, completely contradicting what Brad Garlinghouse said, an 80% chance to pass by the end of April, which we know he's always full of schnockles. But we don't want to harp too much on him because then, we'll get into some people's feelings and they'll get mad. Jason Tyler, good morning. Mick Shoot, thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year. Let's see. Mike says he's an Iranian living in with family still there. Al Jazeera is horrible. The CNN of the Middle East. Yeah, but I'd rather watch the CNN of the Middle East than the CNN of the United States. That's just one source you can look at. But, would you rather have the FUD from over there or the FUD from over here? I want to see what the CNN FUDs of the Middle East is saying about that region. All news is shit. I agree with you, but I'd rather see what their hype and their FUD is on the other side of the world. I already know our bullshit over here, so I don't want to watch our news ever. Our news is trash. So I choose to watch from overseas to see what they're telling their people, because our government's certainly not going to tell us what they're telling their people. So, but that's not the only source. I go through a bunch of different ones in the Middle East. That just happens to be one I said. Extreme fear, we were at yesterday at 14, now we're at 16. Well, 15 and 16. So we haven't really moved much. We got 8 hours and 46 minutes until we have the next push in the crypto fear and greed index. And then the only other thing to really talk about when it comes to crypto in a sense outside the charts is why North Korea keeps stealing billions in crypto out in the open. And this is, again, speculative at best. But they got to put the assault on somebody. So North Korea's 6-month infiltration campaign at Drift rattled a crypto industry already reeling from billion-dollar exploits. But as the news settled, a bigger question came into focus. Why does North Korea keep coming back to crypto in the first place? And why does its approach look so different from every other state-backed hacking operation on the planet? The short answer, according to the security experts, is that crypto helps give the regime a revenue stream and keeps them afloat. North Korea doesn't have the luxury of patience, said David Shrod, Chief Operating Officer at SVRN and the founder of Cybersecurity Master's Program at Yeshiva University. They're under comprehensive international sanctions, and they need hard currency to fund weapons programs. The UN and multiple intelligence agencies have confirmed that crypto theft is a primary funding mechanism for their nuclear and ballistic. Isn't it funny how no matter what each of these countries do, it's always something to do with ballistic missiles and nuclear? I dare say the US is the biggest hoarder and the biggest hackers and stealers of crypto. And it's been proven by our reserve that we have now. So, I mean, all of this to me is always a slap to the face of other countries. And I don't think North Korea hails in comparison to the USA when it comes to all this nonsense. I think the USA is the foremost scumbags in the world. That's why we get told so many lies in school, so much lie and manipulation through the news and media. That's why they discredit everybody else while giving us all the credit. Haven't anybody ever realized that nobody's coming to the USA and taking up arms? We're going to their regions. Imagine if somebody came into the USA like we did to Iran. You kidding me? So I'm not even going to read most of this nonsense because that's what it ends up being. But just imagine if somebody came onto our soil, what would everybody in my audience say? So you got to look at it as an apples to apples comparison. We're going into their regions. It's not the other way. Do you have any insight on the reverse carry trade in Japan is impacting the crypto world? I mean, the only way for the reverse carry trade to really take hold is if everybody gets rid of the US dollar, they start to actually trade in the yuan, and they might actually trade in stable coins or try to trade in gold. But the only way for that to happen is they're going to have higher ability in their own savings or their own bonds to be able to make more money off of their own currency rather than holding US bonds and government dollars and things like that. That's the only way the reverse carry trade actually makes any sense. Right now, it's a bunch of halarchy and malarkey until it actually goes into effect. So my insight would be it hasn't done a damn thing as of right now because there's too many people still in government bonds. Too many countries still rely on the US dollar. So until they stop relying on the US dollar and at least paying in oil in the US dollar, the carry trade is nonsense right now. There's nothing to it, unfortunately. So, it's having the reverse effect in most people. Yeah, stop listening to Jake Cleveland. Well, that would be a good start. But that's what the majority of crypto views go for is the hype people. So that's why the majority of crypto, remember, they need crypto to lose. They need crypto to lose. Yeah, exactly. They get stacked if they invaded. Yes, sir. And yeah, just like me, Mike says he listens to all sides. That's all you can do. You got to build a narrative based on, okay, I listen to what the U.S. is saying. I listen to what the Middle East is saying. I put more stock into what the Middle East is saying over my own country. I've lived here for too long. And yes, they did raise the age of being drafted to 42, ironically, which I can't go anyhow because I can't even get a driver's license because I can't see good enough because I can't see out of both eyes. And I have keratoconus. So I'm not worried about that. But they definitely raised the age. So if they're going to keep doing all this, and they said Barron Trump can't be drafted because he's too tall, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So I don't recall back in the day when you had professional athletes, were they exempt from war because they were too tall? No. He's not a freaking, he's not a giant. So it's a pretty interesting thing. So when they start to exempt themselves and their own families from having to go into an enlistment style protocol or a draft, that's all you need to know. And the Space Force is a big bunch of malarkey too. There is no space in the way they tell us. So that's all money that's being stolen from us and being put towards a propagandist war. Oh, when everybody sees what's coming in the future, it's not going to be pretty. Risk assets are not meant to be held in these times. He probably has some giant DNA. Welcome in, Crypto Cooter, and thanks for being a very trusted mod and in Tom's Army for over 1 year. I told you so bad. It's great to see all of you in here this morning. It really is a vote of confidence to see 75, 80, 85 people in here in the bear market, knowing that in the last bear market we'd have 30, 35, 40 people in the lives. So, I mean, it does speak volumes that we're getting a little bit better retention as far as ones that are willing to sit through the bear market. That's the best I can put it. If you got the cojones to sit through the bear market, you're going to have the wallet to make it through the bull market. It's just that, it's that appropriately said. So, in short, now that we got through the news and notes, which I really like doing that little segment, it does take about 20, 25 minutes, but it takes us away from the charts for all of this. It gives people more of a understanding of what's happening through the news as well, because a lot of people don't know how to shuffle through it, and I completely understand it because there's so much hogwash in it. You gotta really know what you're looking at and how it relates to what we're doing as a whole in crypto. So if we come down here, this is what we speculated yesterday, that if we got rejected at the top of the symmetrical triangle, that then maybe we could make another tug towards $1.3070 and see how it reacts. I'm very interested to see how this comes, to see how this goes, because if we, let's just say, for example, we fall below the symmetrical triangle support. Let's just say we fall through it. The bigger symmetrical triangle that we would be dealing with is right here. It's a bigger stand. We would be able to come through, and this was the area of the equilibrium. You didn't want to lose this area, and we're falling well below it now. If we come below $1.30, we've got a last stand area about $1.2852. And if that breaks, that's the technical target that gets us to 96. The shorter one would get us to about $1.07, $1.08. But we start to look at, okay, well, how does this make sense? And then I put a little symmetrical triangle that's here, which this will emulate a little bit at that $1.28 area, $1.28.5. But this is the all-time cup and handle. So it does start to materialize because the shorter one would get us down to $1.07, $1.08. But the wider symmetrical triangle, which is a continuation pattern and the trend is down right now, gets us right around that 95.9 level, which is actually the shorter area and the all-time cup and handle on this descending wedge, where it could have created a little bit of a consolidation outside of the wider descending triangle. It formed a smaller one as well. And that first area of support would be around 95.9. So it does make a lot of sense for this pattern to suggest they move down into that 96, 97 cent range, or 96. That's right at that 95.9 level. And it makes a lot of sense. Now, one thing that I'll continue to say, until we break down, we have not hit a third tap on resistance up over the top around $1.52. No guarantee we're going to come up there, but we also need to break down this pattern consolidation to start pushing near that sub $1. We are very, very close to breaking down, but we also will always have these taps at $1.27, $1.28, and then we'll have to come back up. And my thing is, if we come down here to $1.28, if we want to confirm the drop, maybe we do come back up to the bottom side of the equilibrium and push that $1.33 after. Right now, we have a double bottom that's put in the daily. This daily looks horrendous. If this daily closed like this, it would be engulfing to start tomorrow's daily. The weekly time frame looks horrible. Yes, it looks like you could have had a weekly reversal, but where it's at right now, it's not exactly in the best possible area. You know, if we keep pushing like this, we could find ourselves in some trouble. But if by the end of the day you see us start pushing back up towards $1.36, $1.37, won't be as bad. But we are on the bottom side as well of the 200 EMA, which is very bearish. Very bearish. And it's just been range bound this entire week. For the better yet, it's been range bound for the better part of the last month. We had a complete failure back in the second week of March in this weekly candle. It got exhausted. It showed a spinning top. And now you've got 3 candles that'll give you the confirmation. And the fourth is going to start pushing in the proper direction. So 1, 2, 3, and they've all been failure candles. Every one of them. So we definitely need to see, but the one thing that could give you hope in a short-term push, you're going to get some tax checks that are going to be sent out, and that happens this week. So a lot of people by April 15th, April 13th to the 15th, they end up getting some kind of, they get their tax reimbursement, which I had to pay a shitload, so I'm not getting no tax reimbursement. Crypto killed me, my gains. Slaughtered me this year because of the range that it went into. Absolute slaughter fest. And anybody who trades crypto understands that. It was a complete cluster that they gave us this year. So I implore you to stay in here and watch this content if you're in here and pay attention to this. Otherwise, I mean, people will come back later and they're like, well, I don't understand what happened. You would have if you stayed and didn't run away. You don't want to run away from the information. No matter how bad it is and no matter how much it goes against what you want it to do, you're only hurting yourself by not paying attention to the information. Not just what I can put out, but at least I can give you the proper information so you can go back and you can bounce it off of what you think without having to be fearful. Nothing I give you will cause fear. It'll cause uncertainty because you don't want to hear some of it. But you're not going to have to worry about coming in here and getting some fear and malarkey and stuff that'll actually keep you up at night. There's plenty of things to keep you up at night, but not the false persona that someone will put on you in the crypto market. And if you are in here, make sure to hit that like button. 67 likes, 83 people. So, appreciate it. Maple Man, the CME close, I believe, was $1.36.6. Possibly a quick pull down, then pump up to that level, unless it's a breakaway gap. Absolutely. Now, one of the concerning things is we actually came up there yesterday and actually filled this out and got rejected. Now, you're not going to see it in the CME because it's closed for the weekend. I have it set up in almost like a channel, with the way that this looks, almost like a little bit of a falling channel. So that puts the lower support here, this right shoulder. We've speculated that it could come up there, but who knows if it actually can. But what we're looking at here is the lower support here, if you put it into a channel sense, is down at 122.55. So there's a lot of ability for it to do certain things. We need it to push past $1.37 on the CME to start to play out to the top side. And then we could see some momentum. But if we're going to get momentum, it would end up being during this tax time. I mean, what better way to trap retail into putting their tax returns on a risk asset than have it pump right when they're all getting paid? So I think liquidity, if we can hold that $1.27, $1.28, would be a better than not area for them to start the week in an upward tug. And then maybe it just bounces up to the CME at $1.36 and gets the bearish rejection. Because if you get that bearish rejection, then it could push right back down. Elmer, welcome in and thanks for being a very trusted mod. Said it's Black Sabbath, not Ozzy Sabbath is way fair enough. Fair point. Fair point. But yeah, Maple Man, you're absolutely correct. It's at $1.36.6 right now for the CME, which means there's a gap left over the top. Now we need to see if it's a breakaway, if it's going to be filled and things like that. And if we continue to push down, we would start tugging at that $1.27, $1.28, but that's conditioned within a symmetrical triangle. So we need to see if we lose $1.30.7, which we're getting very close to. And then the problem is if you come down to $1.27, $1.28, let's say you just come down into here. What if the back toss is just right here at $1.30, $1.31, and then you get a rejection on the short symmetrical? So then you're trading between a breakdown and a smaller symmetrical, and then the support on a larger symmetrical. Nothing much. Listening to Tom tell the truth about things. Yeah. It's good morning, Army. Just popping in before we go to family picnic. Well, have fun at the family picnic, Garbanzo. Good to see all my friends in here this morning. Really love it. And thanks for being in Tom's 6+ months with That's Predictor. I appreciate you stopping in. And have some fun with the family today, as we give our blessings and all the glory to God on this Sunday and every Sunday. Even though Saturday is the most efficient day to give thanks, Sunday is still a proper way to give thanks as well to Yahweh and Yeshua. And we ask for the guiding light of Emmanuel. Maple Man says, very true, Tom. Dangerous times right ahead. Absolutely. Ruby Rain, thank you, Tom, for your time. Look forward to it every day. I look forward to seeing all of you as well. Like I said, I'm generally excited because having 80 people in here on a Sunday, knowing in the last bear market we would struggle to have 40, now we're struggling in the 80s. That's a big difference for me personally. That gives me a lot more faith that going forward we'll have enough people that can push the real word of the market. The biggest struggle I have when we get back into a bull market, if there's not a lot of people that we can trust, who do we point our attention to? And all the people you see in here today are the people you point your attention to in a bull market. Don't listen to the Johnny-come-latelys because they don't even know. They weren't here in the trying times. It's like trial and tribulation. Do you want to just go with somebody because you have the trials? Do you want to go with somebody who's been through the tribulation and gone through the dust and the moments? Or do you just want somebody who comes in when the times are good? I prefer to trust the people when the times are bad that are here and willing to put their best foot forward and are willing to give us their time. Because then you know if they're willing to give you their time in the bear market, they're not going to mislead you in the bull market. The ones who don't want to know how the bear market's worth, they have no problem misleading you in the bull market. In fact, most of those people will keep talking as if we're in a bull market until we finally are at the very bottom of a bear market. And then they start calling for a bear market. It's like calling for it. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we've been in a bear market and it first hinted to us in January of 25 and confirmed it in July. Most people are coming around now and saying, oh, is the bull market over? Is it over? It's been 10 months. My question is, when does the bear market end? Not when it starts. We've been in a bear market for well over 10 months. Some cryptos since January of 25 haven't made new highs. XRP, you can't say the bear market officially began and finally topped out the bull market until July when we hit in 25 that 370, 368. Most other tokens, you didn't get that luxury. January was the brick wall and it never got above it. XRP performed a lot better for a series of weeks and months, and then it just tapped everybody out. Bright Future says, be right back, have to go take a G. I love it. Oh, I love it so much. We have such a sense of humor here. Louvel, welcome in. One of our very long-standing members in Tom's Army, over 3 years with the XP 589 Moon Badge. He knows a thing or two about our bear to bull market cycles and back to bear and back to bull and calling the tops and bottoms. He tried to be the voice of reason in the last one, but not many listened to us in the bear market, I'll be honest. The media didn't tell me the bull market hit. Tom did. Hey, I do what I can, amuse reindeer, and welcome in, friend. Garbanzo says that USDT target out of the falling wedge is about to hit. We're probably getting an exhaustion spike soon and get a little relief. Yeah, we'll get into the USDT dominance chart here in just a sec as well. Glad you brought that up. I actually forgot about to look at it. Mike says we all come in at different times. I was oblivious to anything crypto till a year ago. Aside from knowing a dude who bought 100 Bitcoin at $1 way back when, didn't know if he kept it. 99% chance he didn't keep it and probably sold it soon after, but who knows? There's always a chance, right? There's always a chance. But look at XRP fading here this morning. Bitcoin's fading. I mean, look at this. Even Algo with that nice run. Remember what we talked about? Coming all the way back down here. The best hope it had was to hold here on the handle, but more than likely, here, let me get rid of this so you don't see finesse and facade. We talked about nothing ever breaks out of these descending wedges and doesn't come back to back test it. I mean, look how big of a back test this is. And I remember when people were shorting, I gave the perfect area to short when everybody was trying to buy it and short it lower. I put this box as the short box. Once it got in there, you should feel free to short it. You know, and that's where I need to take my own advice. But I was doing the swing trades back and forth at the same time, so I didn't want to get caught looking at the short and the long portions. Technical target was 1214. It came up to 1268. And now Algo, I mean, even with all that volume that came in for a momentary moment, it's still got to come. It's down 19%. And more than likely, it's going to be down about 30% from that top. And it's going to be right back into back testing that breakout of the descending wedge. And we know in the all-time pattern, the target's at about 7 cents. So if we start looking at the grand pattern, 7 cents to me is a nice entry point. If and when we get down there in the bottom of the bear market, I would love to see 7 cents and I'll take advantage of it. For IOTA, it's tricky because IOTA's below. It's below the setup that we had before. And you can't do something like this. Like that would be in the negative. So, you know, we're going to have to figure out with IOTA how bad this is going to get. The only thing we can really do here with IOTA because of the way it's moving, and it's well below this even, so we're finding out new setups here for IOTA, so there's not much I can say until we figure out exactly how this is going to shape out because this looks horrendous for IOTA. If we get into HBAR real quick before we go into the USDT dominance, we have 4.63 cents. If we look at the uptrend that was created, And I stand pretty firm with that on H bar. That's where I'm targeting 7 cents for algo, 4.6 cents for H bar to try to see if that's the proper area for the bear market. I still believe unequivocally that this market is going to take shape more when we start to go into the midterm. So the farther they drive it down, the more it looks successful when we get into the elections in the US and the midterms, because it's easier to show a larger percentage gain the lower it is and to drive the price up. So if we can just hold out to the proper time, I guarantee it, we're going to make life-changing movements. It's going to happen again, even more profound than other markets that we've been in. For V-Chain, again, if we push this into that May, June, July, I have this X marks the spot, but you can't come all the way down there. I try to always tell everybody it doesn't have the ability to even reach down there. So you kind of have to look at this instead of going into the wicks. You're going to have to look at this in different lights because it can't come down here. You know, it cannot come down there. So you can't just look at that. So that's why we can't talk about it all the way down there. And we have to try to find what makes sense. So maybe coming through the body of this is what makes the most sense. I don't think so. But there's only so far this pattern can go, and it's a scary proposition. You know, you got 0-0 like that, but I chose to do it like this for a reason, even though it can only come so far down. But it's a problem here. This whole market is a big mess. And this is at like the 0046. I'm not even sure it can hold there. We've talked about the 001, 002 if you do it like this into the apex zone. It's a huge mess here in V-Chain and everything else. So where exactly is the appropriate hit? I don't think it's where it's at now, but I guess I could be surprised. And then just to show you in an unequivocal way, look at IO or XDC. I choose to believe XDC is running us out in front of what's going on. And again, XDC broke down 3% today. We have our targeted area at about 0.225, but can that even hold? I don't know, but that's definitely an area of contention for me where I think we could get a big spike out of that range. But that's still, I mean, the weekly looks grotesque. A lot of downward movement. I mean, these candles look horrible right now. Horrible. I wish I didn't have to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't mind being the bearer of bad news. I've been chosen for this mission for a reason. Our Lord and Savior has given me the abundance of knowledge and the ability to discern what is not true and factual in crypto. So we're looking at another 25% before we can start talking about this. Unless this descending wedge were to play out, but it hasn't. For lack of a better term, it's been a shitstorm, a failure of epic proportions. And the longer it drags out, as we've talked about, the less opportunity and viability there is. Now that we've fallen back within, now you have to look at it coming down to 289. If this continues, it's every movement we've taken to the top side, it's come back to the top. Shiba is a meme. Stay away, buy utility tokens, IOTA, Algo, Quant, XRP, XDC, XLM, Arrow, etc. Elmer, this is in response. Anyone know anything about Shiba? I'm about 70% in the hole. Yeah, it's technically yes, meme, but it also has the ISO implementation in it, believe it or not. But because of the amount of tokens, it was significantly overvalued. I haven't rode in Shiba in a very long time, besides when it gave opportunity. And I warned this very community to stay away from Shiba until we got to the bottom. You know, Shiba is not the end all be all like many want to think. It was a big pump and dump scheme. Back in the day, they touted it as a retail holder in Shiba, turned in, $1,000 into $1 million. Well, the news and truth of that is that particular person they showed actually claimed a 10% stake and tried to give funding to the actual, they actually were hand in hand with the developer. So they, in fact, weren't retail. It was a big scheme to pray the price up. Getting some childhood South Park vibes from you. Choosing one, pray, juicy, cheesy poo. Creamy goodness. Oh, man. Always can use a laugh. I love it. Well, Shiba did lose about 6.0s at one point. Yeah, 6 zeros. It sure did. Shiba had one of the biggest runs you'll ever see in the 2021 bull market, along with what Doge did before that and then into that market as well. Um, but it was propped up for a reason. So yeah, XDC, you look at it from that descending wedge standpoint, but if you look at it from the wider standpoint, it's been an unequivocal failure. It's been a head and I mean, that is one of the clearest head and shoulders you could ever see. And here, I'll show you how to do it with the head and shoulders. So you come down, we'll say it came from in here to create the shoulder. So shoulder down to the, I guess we could go a little bit higher. Here, I'll show you. And then back to the neckline. Let's see. Actually, you know what? It's more like this. It's more like this. So if you want to go into a shoulder head shoulder perfect neckline, I mean, look how close we are to losing that neckline of the head and shoulders. And yeah, it formed that little descending support, descending resistance. But if you fall below that, game over, lights out. Because then you come back to reset the pattern. And that's where this is kind of speaking inside of this, falling back into this descending wedge and coming down to 2.9. But I mean, this is horrendous, right? Everything looks horrible right now in the weekly. Obviously, we're oversold in the 4-hourly. Obviously, the CME gap, for anybody watching, it's obvious this morning, $36.60. So we need to find out if that's a breakaway gap, if we come back up there to use it as a profound resistance. But being 70% down in Shiba is not good, especially in the current environment. Shiba has the tendency to lose 20 to 50% monthly from where it's at. It is what it is. That's what's always happened with Shiba. But, you know, a lot of the FUDsters, they push Shiba. That's what they do. That's what they do. And we're going to have to fill out this wick down here. I can almost guarantee we have a gap filled right here. So the pain is not over when it comes to Shiba by a long shot. But, you know, take that as a learning experience, Elmer. Take it as a learning experience. And maybe some of you are starting to become wiser to why I have the triple X HOT plus V strategy and I don't look outside of it when we get down to the bottom. Because there's, I mean, look at V-Chain. I used to talk about these levels for V-Chain in 21 when we were getting in that big bull market and into 22, and everybody thought I was crazy. And now that we start seeing this, I mean, so we got 5 zeros here. And it's the price is so low that a lot of these exchanges now with Shiba, they start to put they don't even want to show all the zeros. You know, on that chart, it was looking like that. But on other charts, I mean, we're just getting destroyed here. We're getting destroyed. You know? It's not cool. But I like to look at some of the other charts that actually printed out in the full scale. But it's hard because Shiba has been listed and delisted on so many exchanges now. But this is the one I used to use back on KuCoin. And look how it's come through every single one. In the resistance areas, it never got past. And then it started working its way. I haven't looked at this chart in years, probably. Because I haven't done it like this in the support resistance where I had the lines up everywhere. Look how it fell through everything. There's no solace on this chart right now. There's no fade back point. You know, sometimes people watch this and they're like, well, this guy's a dick. What do you mean there's no solace or fault? Well, there isn't. You know, I'd rather be a dick than mislead you all. You know, or be viewed as a dick, so to say. Sorry, it's a family-friendly show, but you get the drift. So let's just look at this from a wholesale assault. That ain't looking good. This is not looking good. I would like to take this from a macro point of view if we even can. This has been a unequivocal failure in this token. And now it's like, well, we could do it like this from the wider scale, but I think you could do it like this from the lower scale as well. So you can start to look at this in a different way. And it's brutal. This has been nothing short of brutal. But this isn't the only token. It don't matter what you're in. Every single token looks like this, aside from XRP and a couple of others. They all look like this now. That's the problem. I mean, shit. You can't even look at this with a straight face if it falls below this, because this was starting what looked like a little bit of an uptrend. So, I mean, if it falls below this, you're going to print a few more zeros. That would be the ultimate fear. That if it loses that, you would print a bunch more zeros. Can't even do this. It'd be too low. So now you have to come to the body of this, forget that wick, and try to look at it from the wick after the long extending wick. I mean, there's so many problems with this right now that... Is this going to be one that goes to die? I don't necessarily think so, but it looks horrible right now. This looks horrendous. And thank you for the 84 people watching right now and the 78 likes. If you're watching, try to hit that like button. Try to get this as close to 100 as we can. Yeah, the love does hurt and it's golds, but it at least puts us in the right perspective. 10K now, about $2,700. That's the story of the bear market, unfortunately. That's the story of the bear market and not trading through the bull market necessarily. And a lot of people, honestly, I mean, I'm not saying this is you, Elmer, but a lot of people prefer to buy it no matter what, everywhere and anywhere. And then they just say, I can just hold it forever and I'll be okay. That's not true. It's not true. Like you're showing, you're down almost 80%. In order for, this could have took years to make up. If it ever makes up. We may never see those prices again for Shiba. And the fact it's breaking down the all-time setup is not a good sign at all. Has it already been an hour and 11 minutes? Wow, time really flies when you're enjoying your audience, I'll tell you what. Let's look at USDT dominance while I'm still in, while I still have your understanding. And look at all of these. Axler down 5.3%. DGB down another 5.3%. WLFI up 1.13%. Hilarious. It's hilarious. Hilarious after that big drop. Tile got bad news and basically their whole privacy thing shot up in the air. That looks horrible in the weekly. So you wonder why we had a pump out of an ascending triangle, which should have been a bearish reversal to start, because they were trying to trap some people. That's all. It was a big trap, unless you want to call this a rising wedge. But it was a trap. They knew bad news was coming out, so they pushed it into there. You've got Quant down 2.97%. You got TX up 0.46%, but look how far it's dropped. Oh, but yeah, we got a 0.5% gainer there, you know, so ZBCN up 1/3 of 1%. And after its movement, remember the movement it had up just a week or two ago? And it pushed right up to our resistance. It did exactly what it needed to do on this little handle. And then it got rejected at the point of entry, the point of attack. So it did it didn't bounce out. Didn't bounce out. That's why when you see your bag pump, sell it. Especially in the bear market. Every time you see a big pump or 10 to 20%, you get rid of it and redo it on the next drop. Until it proves we're not in a bear market, every single drop is going to be compounded with a bigger low. Every single time it rises, you're going to fall even farther. I mean, look at Algo. Algo's a perfect example. If you would have rode this out of the descending wedge, it's basically the only one that ended up being the trap. And it rose all the way up, and now it's down, and it's going to continue to fall, more than likely. And now it's back within the box. I didn't put in the, I didn't put it in this fashion, but I guess it would be better if I did. I didn't put this in a rectangle, but I drew it out myself on this one. But that's your box. That was your box, and it's actually bigger than I drew out. But that's a big area that it can come and tap. And now that it's come here, it's still got this range. So, I mean, even with how far it's come down, if you want to just put it in real time, that's a big liquidity area that it needs to sweep. So, I don't come on here every single day and say you don't want to hold through bear markets. I don't want anybody to be down 90% at the end of the bear market. That's my end goal. And even if you've got capital to spare, don't give it back to the house. That's like going into the casino and saying, "Oh, I got a few $1,000s I can afford to lose." You're not going in to lose it though. You're still trying to find a system that works. I don't care how much money you have to spare. If you've got that much money to spare, you don't even need to invest in risk assets. It's not worth it. Go put it in bond or go put it in dividend paying stocks that have very little price movement, but they pay you a monthly trailing SEC yield or the trailing yield that's given out by the SEC, that what it's defined as. Don't put yourself at that risk. That's just what I see. Now, could we say we have an inverse head and shoulders? Absolutely, but I don't necessarily think it's going to hold. But we'll see how next week starts. Ethereum had a little bit of a move up yesterday for what? So that it could trap more retail. We didn't even come up here a second time, but we already came up here once. The technical move up would let you believe it's 26.53 out of that breakdown. But again, if we just expand this and say, well, let's get rid of that resistance over the top and just extend this out, that's a much wider pattern that it's starting to develop. And I could make an argument here, and I will, that we could look, and then I'm going to get into USDT, Bitcoin. I'll look at before I leave, and then I'm going to call it a session, I think. It's been great to have so many people in here, further pushing the commitment of the community. A lot of people are trying to help a lot of people to stay safe. For Ethereum, I would just say, now that we're breaking back below that 2,200, that opens up the door to a pushback down under 2,000, just on this little pattern that it's setting up. I could almost argue that it's formed a symmetrical and a wider metric now. So we need to, we definitely need to see. Areli, welcome in, love, says, have a good day, heading to church. God bless you and have a good time at church as you pray for our Lord and Savior and the solace and salvation for all of us. I went to church this morning at 9 for the 9 a.m. Mass. I actually lit a candle for the whole community. So you were all in my blessings at church this morning. So I appreciate all of you, and I appreciate you sharing the fact that you're going to go give thanks to our Lord and Savior on this beautiful Sunday morning. Nice afternoon, Matt. Well, I don't know exactly what time frame you're at right now, but Areli, have fun on your journey to church, love. And we really are very appreciative of you being in here. I am personally. I love seeing that name in here. I love seeing your smile in your picture, too. It gives me hope. Co-Creative Music, welcome in. That's John. John Sampson, I believe. Yes, even though the names keep changing, I'll never forget that face. In Tom's Army for over 4 years with the XRP Phoenix badge. $1.99 super chats as friendly bets on how XLM market cap low. Ooh, I like that. That's a good point. I do need to put XLM with the market cap on here. Interesting. Let's go to XLM market cap. Amen indeed. Whoops. Where's our market cap for XLM? Gotta run. Thanks for another great live. Oh, you're welcome, Cannabis Podcast, and thank you for tuning in. Yeah, I every time I say I'm almost done with the live, that's when I notice people will leave. So I tried to wait longer today, but it's true. I'm going to be leaving here in just a minute. Where the hell is the, I thought it would just pop up with the cap. Oh, here we go. I was going to say, maybe I should have just did it like that. Right now we're at 4.985 billion. And John, let's see. I love that you brought this up. I love that you brought. Ugh. Maybe you don't want me to say this. True Raven says, thanks for lighting that candle at Mass. I appreciate it. Oh, you're welcome. Oh, you're welcome. It's one of my missions. I always like to go on Sundays, if only to say the prayer feel the commitment from others. Even though it's not the most holy day of the year, I still like to feel because on Sundays you'll get the most in the retail or the general populace that will go to church on Sundays. So it gives me an overall vibe. I feel that vibe the most on Sundays because you have the largest amount of communal that'll be there. So I always like to feel the vibe. But even in faith, it's waning. Not right now, I'm not buying H bar. I'm waiting. If you want, I'll go to H bar one more time. But on the market cap, John, and thanks for the super chat. My guess would be if this symmetrical triangle breaks down, it's early in the symmetrical triangle. So let's just say it does it here. I mean, you're looking for and it makes sense if you look at it in this regard because, John, the one thing I can say about XLM, if you look at it in the grand scale, I can make an argument that you're in a big shoulder, a big head, and maybe this shoulder rounds, and maybe it would be like that. But until this breaks down, we've got a nice inverse head and shoulders setting up. Even in the market cap, you can see it. But at the same time, we're going to have to see some viability here. So what I mean by that is we've created higher lows in every market cycle. So if we do this and we I like to call it prorating the market, so to say. Now you do technically have to come through the head here because of the way it did this. So the most efficient way would be like this. And even this suggests, even if we came up, we had an extreme top, after a bottom, came up, bottomed again, went to an extreme top, came down, bottomed again, came to an extreme top. Now, the next time we come down to bottom, and let's do this in an efficient way, John. And I always appreciate seeing you in here, so I'll go the extra mile, especially for you, to try to give my output. Because I know you actually care more than most. And you were very helpful in the bear market. A lot more than most, actually. Even though we got criticized universally, me and you still tried. That's all we can do is try, and we take the criticism as good faith criticism that people just don't understand what's going on. That's the way I choose to look at it now. And it's evolved my outlook. So now if we look at this in the general narrative, the next support structure, John, 2.86 billion, and we want that to hold. So in my expectation, as long as this uptrend continues, 2.86 billion, and then the inverse right arm could stay intact. I mean, it might reset this a little bit, but 2.86 billion would be my expectation. And we're basically, when you look at this on resistance, we've been compressing and expanding the exact same way. Compression to expansion, compression to expansion, compression to expansion. Now the next compression, and we're just stuck in this channel. So the cool thing about this is if we did get because it looks like to me in the next, let's just put it this way, in the next movement back to the top side, the next area, you would think it would outperform XRP in the next bull cycle, just based on what I'm seeing with even the market cap shows the same thing. Because if you go from 2.86, so look at it how this has been happening. And it's given us a proven history until it breaks down or breaks out. But if you come from the beginning, from the bottom of this channel and up, it gave a 14,000% return, then loses 99%, basically. So then you lose 90% back to the bottom. Then from the second time up, we'll do it from this area right here on the bounce. It went back up and gave you 1,500. So not the same gains, because it's always going to be smaller because it's not coming down as far. Then it comes back down 90%, 80%. Then the next time it gave us 711% gains. Now this next time, if it comes down, it would give us 600% gains. Oh, no. John, I am not saying that it's not going to break down. I'm just saying, if it doesn't hold, yes, then you look for a complete reset. And I am not against what you're saying. I'm just saying we got to keep it intact until it proves that this would break down. If it doesn't hold, I will show you that you are not far off from my own thinking. And this would be in the scenario where everything just cataclysmically collapses. But I could give you a reason why it could come way lower than even your 250, believe it or not. If this whole thing fails to hold and you come through it and prorate this target, and let's just take this out into the future. We're not trying to piss people off. Or actually, 250 is pretty good because when you stretch it out far enough, I like it, John. Because I've been looking at this too on the actual the XLM price, but I haven't pulled it out as much when it comes to the internal price. It's got to be something like this. Oh, man. It's very hard to do, but I tend to agree with you on your price analysis. Shit. Let me put this in the monthly. Because we got to do this proper. It's just so hard to do it. So this still has to be down farther. What a pain in the ass. On XLM, because of what I know it is for, it's very hard not to be macro bullish, but the micro, it's very easy to be bearish. I know it's funny, but a lot of people are like, well, the macro is bullish, so that means the micro is going to stay bullish. Well, and it gives us a nice guiding arm. See this, John? This is the only thing cool about this, is because of that big wick in the monthly. It allows us to see exactly what would happen if it came all the way back through, which is pretty scary. So, even your 250 million in the worst case scenario, you could find yourself well under that even, which is freaking scary. Let's just say, this is in the 2028 range. Could it come back down here? I highly doubt it. But it's possible. It's not impossible, is what I'm saying. It's not an improbability that it could come all the way down there, my friend. And then we already see so I'll keep this up for future reference as well. Then we start talking about the push through like this. So this would be if it stays on that uptrend and actually holds. If not, you open up a target that can be much, much lower. I don't disagree with you. And then one last thing. We'll look at the USDT dominance, and then I'm going to call it a day. I appreciate the 89 likes. If you're still in here and haven't left yet, make sure to hit that like button. Yes, we have on every single time. You're right about that. Before every significant move, it seems like we've dumped out pennies on the dollar, or fractions of a penny on the dollar, as it turns out. USDT at 7.72. So it's made a little bit of a resurgence today, but it's come down. It almost looks like it put in a big reversal pattern. It almost came all the way down to our target, very close to 7.39. I'm not going to split hairs. It came to 7.43, close enough. It's close enough. So now we need to put this at the swing low, which ended up being 7.43. And then if we actually looked at this, the wider scale, it actually makes more sense. Because we could have did it like this. So, I'm not mad at how far it came down. And now if it comes back within here, this could start playing its way back up in a very profound way. But it's very oversold or overbought. And the 4-hourly is to where a lot of the other ones are oversold. Thoughts on H-bar if we're looking at it from the grand scale? My buy-in target is 4.6 cents out in July, August area. But if we want to avoid that, at some point we're going to have to push over this downtrending resistance, which that's up at about 9.8 cents in real time. And then like right here, we're not doing so great. We're still on the support, but that daily looks awful pushing down. Weekly's horrible. 4-hourly's oversold. So we could have another condition where Sunday into Monday we get a little bit of a pump, and then something bigger can happen. Yeah, it looks like an inverse head and shoulders on the USDT dominance. It certainly does. It certainly does. And then last but not least, Bitcoin, and then I got to go. It's already been an hour and 30 minutes. Hey, we got 92 likes this morning. Look at that. Thank you all so much for that. Was a very, very nice live this morning. Very good people in here. Bitcoin 70,979. Bouncing off this liquidity area. This is almost like the gap area. If it holds that 70,500 down to 70,300, that was, or 70,000, that's where we had that heat liquidation map firing up at all cylinders. 4-hourly significantly oversold. It's funny though for Bitcoin, inverse head and shoulders, but if we want to tap it like this side again, it very well could come down to that 67, 68 range if it wants to go overzealous. But that 4-hourly lets me believe that we could have some volatility to the upside after the Sunday candle closes. We could find some volatility. So weekly candle had a big push up, still in an inverted hammer. So remember that unless this, well, it did come down at one point and put this bottoming part, but I guess as of right now, it's still not a horrible candle. Well, I mean, it looks like hell still. You want to close over 72 and make this candle close over the top of that big significant one. But even being over 69,255 is at least closing over. But this wouldn't be the greatest start to a next weekly candle if it looks like this. So 74,000 area if it wants to push back up. But we already came into this zone we talked about yesterday. It actually pushed up into it again yesterday. So we'll see. With that being said, thank you all so much. Have a blessed Sunday. If you want to join the live classes, we're working on it. Well, I'm working with somebody on a digital workbook, but that's all I can talk about. So that every single class you would have an updated workbook and it would be digital. Nothing more I can talk about there, but that's something that I'm in the works doing with a very loyal member of this community. Helping me out a ton. Got to talk to him on the phone yesterday. So a shout out to you, Oliver, for helping me try to create a digital version of our information. It's a true blessing. So anybody in the information, it's a true blessing. So that would just mean everybody in the class would be able to have a ongoing digital workbook so that they could see all the information, everything that I have in my Zoom and things like that. So a lot of stuff I'm working on to try to make this transcending, make you feel like you're in a college course. I can't wait. Those classes are 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I look forward to class number 23 tomorrow as we continue running through phase 4, which we're getting closer to the end of phase 4. And if you join the live classes, just go into the playlist and it's got every single one of the live classes archived, and soon you'll have a workbook to go with it. I don't know how long it's going to take, and if we can get this to work appropriately, which I have all the faith in the world with Oliver, we can have a digital setup for every single person in the class. And it's going to make it feel so much better. You'll be able to go into it, look at it for a course of, so you'll have an understanding, and it'll be kind of like your checks and balances. So I look forward to continuing this. And then the only other thing, if you're looking for leverage or if you're looking for a no KYC exchange, the only one that I trust and that I ever talk about is BitUnix. I've never had any issues with it, and you can click on the BitUnix link. So have a blessed day. Thank you for the 95 likes. I have no doubt we're going to get to 100 likes on this live, and that makes me very, very happy to see the show of support here today. And thank you to everybody who gifted subs this morning and sent a super chat. It's been profoundly awesome. Bearded Viking, we continue to pray for Mighty Marcus. I lit a candle for everybody, including Mighty Marcus, this morning at church. Thanks for being in town 6+ months, and we ask for the guiding hand of our Lord and Savior Yahweh and Yeshua to continue to bless us each and every Sunday, each and every day. And I want to go out with one thing. I did it a little bit different, but I want to give glory to God, and we'll watch this on the way out. Amen to that, Elmer. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for everybody who for tuning in to Glory to God at the end. I see I like to do it at the end now, I think on Sundays. Let us all go out on a positive vibe. Like number 100 just came in. I'll be darned. I didn't think it was possible to get 100 likes. Thank you all so much, and God bless all of you. And I'll see you guys hopefully tonight for the daily close at between 7 and 8 p.m. as long as I can get